All right, guys, so statistically, most of you watching this video have debt, but a ton of people get debt all wrong. For example, half of you who are watching this video probably are racing to get out of debt as quickly as possible. Maybe you stumbled across a couple Dave Ramsey videos and you know that maybe there's some safety to paying off the debt and it makes you feel better on the inside, right? But the other half of you may be trying to keep your debt because it's a low interest rate, and you know that putting money into the stock market may produce a better return. Well, in full reality, the truth about debt is a mix between these two concepts, and I wanted to talk about that today. So if we take person one, for example, who wanted to pay off their debt as quickly as possible, a lot of you may already understand this, but that person is leaving a ton of money on the table. Paying off debt quickly makes a lot of sense if you have an extremely high interest rate. Like, for instance, some people have a 27% credit card loan. Some people have a car loan that's in the 12%. A lot of this debt does need paid off quickly. Just holding this debt for long periods of time is what keeps a lot of people extremely broke. And again, I'm not a financial advisor and cannot advise you any way, but personally in my life, I do keep some debt around. And that's person two in this scenario. So person two has a medium to low interest rate debt, and they realize that investing money into the stock market can produce a greater return and out-earn the debt that they have. But this only works in some instances. So, for example, let's say you have a home loan that's at a 5% interest rate. For example, let's just imagine that the home is, I don't even know, $200,000. So what this 5% interest rate tells us is that for the first couple years, you are paying about $1,000 per month in interest. And so a lot of people look at this in turn and look at the stock market and say, well, my interest on my house is only accruing at 5%. I can make 10 to 12% interest gained on the stock market. And so a lot of people will decide to stop paying extra for their home. They want to preserve that low interest rate debt, and they want to gain through investments. Now, this doesn't always make sense because let's take, for example, my friend John. John also bought a $200,000 home recently. He wants to preserve the interest rate, just like we said earlier, and invest in the stock market to make a higher return. But John didn't have any money previously stored in the stock market. So while John is fighting to get his first couple $1,000s into the stock market, this interest is eating away at him through the home loan. And let me explain here. So again, the home loan only makes $1,000 of interest per month that he has to pay. This is money going straight to the bank and disappearing. While John is still investing in the stock market, even though he's making 10 to 12%, he is nowhere near making $1,000 a month in interest gained. So for the first couple years, it might be smarter for John to pay extra on his home, chip away at the base principal of the mortgage, and stop investing or don't invest at all until the home is, halfway paid off. Because in full reality, again, he is losing way more to interest than the stock market is making. So let me give you a scenario where this makes sense. Let's say John, in turn, in some alternate universe, started investing when he was young. He has over $100,000 in the stock market, making 10% return per year. So John, when he's ready to buy his home, has two different options here. He can either take out a mortgage the traditional way and buy this home over 30 years, or he can pull some money out of the stock market and pay half of it in cash. So for this example, John would be smarter to leave his money invested in the stock market and buy the home on a mortgage. And the reason is that 5% interest rate on a $200,000 home will be equal to or less than the amount of money produced from $100,000 making 10 to 12% in the stock market. So every single month, the interest costs $1,000, but John makes $1,100 on the stock market. Because he had that large sum of money invested at the beginning, it is smarter for him to buy it on a mortgage. So again, there's a couple different ways John can proceed through this. He can continue paying off the home for 30 years. He can slowly pull out his investment gains and just start slowly making extra payments on the mortgage. Or John can just wait 10 years, wait for the money to double and put a big chunk down on his mortgage. There's a ton of different ways he could do this, but the least smart thing he can do is start from zero with investments while his interest is eating him away. This is what keeps the poor poor and what keeps the rich rich. This could be very similar for a car loan too, if you want to look at it at a lessened scale. So personally, I bought a 2025 Silverado Trail Boss. It's a pretty sweet truck, and even though I could pay for the car fully in cash, I decided that that would not be the best option. Paying for this car in cash would require me to lose $60,000. And personally, I know that this $60,000 would serve me better sitting in the S&P 500, making me high interest returns every single year as compared to my low interest rate that I have on my car loan. So if I would have paid for my car completely in cash and slowly rebuilt my investments, it would have cost me about $15,000 in opportunity cost over 5 years. But because this money has been invested, I do still have to pay the interest on this car, which after 5 years would total out to around $8,000. However, my investments in that same time would have produced me upwards of $50,000 in stock gains. So we take the $50,000, subtract the $8,000 I paid in interest, I had a net gain of $42,000, which if I wanted to buy another car, it perfectly sets me up for that. But the person who paid for their car in cash lost a ton of opportunity cost because maybe it'll take them 3 or 4 years to rebuild that $60,000 that they pulled out of their investment. But again, this only makes sense because the amount of money I have invested in the stock market out-earns the amount of money I pay in interest every month. So again, guys, think wisely about your debt, think smart about where your money's going, and if you can't do simple math like that, just punch the numbers into ChatGPT and let it decide for you. But if you watched this video and you made it this far, you definitely need to subscribe. I do finance content, and I've only got 30 subscribers, so it would mean the world to me. And I appreciate y'all for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.